make America great again. Donald Trump.
Facebook, Twitter, Reddit. We all know that these social media sites are biased against people with common sense. Basically, anybody to the right of socialist Bernie Sanders. But what about LinkedIn? LinkedIn bills itself as connecting the world's professionals to make them more productive and successful. But what if I told you that LinkedIn has a very overt social justice agenda? Hello, I'm Angry Asian, and this is LinkedIn is Virtue Signaling Trash, Part 1. So I recently left my job in big tech because there's too many millennial pussies and unqualified women that were hired because they have a vagina who cry whenever you make a common sense statement. I'm going off on a bit of a tangent here, but I left when I told senior management that they'd save money and reduce the amount of negative sentiment if they removed anybody who put their gender pronouns in their bios online from paid media targeting. The women went crazy, shouting that I'm tone deaf and generally cunting about.
All women are queens. If she breathes, she's a god!
By the way, I've done this for a while. That's a free tip. If you're targeting people online for paid media, remove people who put their gender pronouns in their bio, because there's a really good chance that they're either unemployed or don't have any real decision-making power at their company, aside from making everybody's life worse. Think like a diversity and inclusion coordinator. Also, don't worry about me. I'm not an a-hole with my money who spends money on a new iPhone every year. Whenever I get money, I stick it into the bank. So now I'm on just a mini vacation, looking for a company that's not full of social justice wieners. So I'm on LinkedIn, and site starts trying to push a quote-unquote course on unconscious bias on me. I look up the black woman who they of course got to do it, and she brands herself as a diversity, inclusion, and career strategist who works to reduce bias in recruiting and barriers to hiring, leading at the intersection of recruiting, career development, diversity, and workplace culture. Stacy has delivered keynote speeches globally and developed educational content that has engaged professionals both in person and in a virtual environment. She focuses on reworking how companies work that include how they recruit, hire, and engage women and professionals of color.
Unconscious bias is a big topic. Do an online search and you'll get thousands of articles, commentaries, opinions, and reports. It's being discussed at colleges and universities and companies big and small. Unconscious bias is something that we all need to be aware of because it affects us all. My name is Stacey Gordon. I'm a human capital and diversity consultant with recruiting expertise. I spent years working in Fortune 500 companies and nonprofit organizations specializing in diversity and inclusion. And today, I hope to bring awareness to the topic of unconscious bias and get you thinking about how it might affect you and how we might be affecting others. In this course, we're going to talk about unconscious bias and the impact it has on business. We'll identify and discuss specific types of bias and begin thinking about them in new terms. And when we're done, we'll answer the question, what's next? I love that you're here and open to learning about unconscious bias. It might be challenging, but hang in there with me and we'll work through it together.
She's a stupid bitch. Oh, I was gonna whisper that.
These people are insane. Their job is to basically go around, and their career is built upon pretending to find issues where there aren't any. Here's how you address racism. Hey, did the person treat you differently based on your race? Then get back to effing work and quit crying. Instead, people like this basically go around like the Salem witch trials. If he floats, he's a racist! I can't believe companies spend this amount of money on BS. I wish I bought into this. I really do. The executive level positions like VP of Diversity and Inclusion at most of these companies are basically created to purely promote women, and mainly black women, so they can purport the number of women in leadership at their companies. God knows you wouldn't want to give most of these people any real decision-making power.
How dare you!
But think of that. These people have VP level salary, 2 or 3 junior people that report to him, and an assistant to basically cunt around and tell people they're a racist. I've met people like this at my company because I used to work with high-level executives a lot. One time, I was doing some video work and this doctor of gender fluidity or something comes in and gives the executive a script, and he got one of the facts wrong in the script. I had to cut out that whole effing section. I'm just like, maybe you should have hired the guy based on his merit instead of the fact that he's gay. LinkedIn tossing this BS in our faces. If Asian people were treated with the same reverence that black people are treated, we'd be running this country now. But then again, we're treated worse than white people in this country. We're the most discriminated against minority in the U.S. because leftists, blacks, and Hispanics hate us because we actually succeed and point a spotlight at their own failures, because their narrative falls apart when a visible minority like an Asian succeeds in the supposedly racist United States, despite things like affirmative blaction, which F Asians in the A, making it harder for us to get into schools and jobs because these places gotta hit their diversity quotas. And Asians actually succeed, so you've got to be overqualified if you're Asian. LinkedIn just sticking this right in our faces. Black Americans are discovering the professional benefits of working overseas. Well, if you want to go overseas, then get the fuck out. With more choosing to stay abroad, while working abroad has its own challenges, many executives say moving has lifted the burden of being black in corporate America, where black employees are often tasked with solving diversity issues. That is because most blacks in leadership are hired for BS diversity positions that's only real goal is to scream about imagined racism and make people hate their jobs. Beth Cowett from Fortune on American blacks moving abroad. You're an American. You're not African American. I agree with this first post, by the way. There isn't any other type of American besides American. You are not made to feel like you are carrying the burden of anything. You are carrying the power of something. I wrote about why black Americans move abroad for work and decide to stay. This is what they're telling me is trending. It's got 225 engagements. If you look at most things that are actually trending on LinkedIn, they've got thousands of engagements for the original author. The LinkedIn trending tab is the same as the YouTube trending tab, biased and editorialized. They should rename the tab to staff picks. Top comment after the author, Calvin Kleinman. Sad that some Americans have to leave America to succeed. This brain drain isn't good for our nation. Look at these comments. Jason Scorsese. Very sad that our society is so racist that blacks feel better working overseas. It's a testament to our moral failings as a nation. Hopefully we can crush the GOP cult in November and begin the process of building a multicultural, multiracial, true democracy in America where all people are treated with respect. Are you kidding? Under Trump, there was the lowest black unemployment in recorded history. People are leaving because retarded leftists keep trying to shut this country down and destroy our economy. I can't believe this dude has a job. Then Calvin comes in. I wholeheartedly agree with you. As a former Republican precinct captain, I mourn the loss of honesty and integrity once found in the GOP. Now it is the party of hatred, misogyny, and racism. Money and power trump all in the GOP. Motherfucker, name a single thing Trump has done that's racist. I'll wait. Eric W. I agree. The saddest part about that commentary is that while black Americans, I hate that all of a sudden people capitalize at being black now, by the way, feel that they need to leave to feel included and be treated like they are competent, American companies are more upset and vocal with the freeze to work visas, blah, blah, blah. Well, maybe the black Americans that are leaving can't compete based on merit in the U.S., but can compete in other countries. Did you think of that? Corey Moody. This is someone that deals in HR, by the way, for AMN Healthcare. Great article. I especially like the part where she mentions never having experience being an American first and black second. Very powerful when you think about that. I would definitely consider working internationally or retiring internationally if the right opportunity presented itself. Here's Jason Scorsese again. These guys are basically paid to copy-paste on LinkedIn with their left-wing nutjob rhetoric. Corey Moody. I hope so too, but sadly this has been an issue before the current president took office and it does not seem to be going away anytime soon, which is why a lot of us feel this way. He then goes on to say, Yeah, it hit home because I know no matter how hard I work or the qualifications I have, to some employers or HR offices, they see a black man first and me second. Well, then stop bitching about being black and demanding special treatment, and demand that people remove racial quotas from hiring and education. And maybe that'll happen. I don't know. Maybe when leftists complain every day about there not being enough black, trans, queer, bi, furries in positions of leadership, and then they hire social justice fools to run their HR departments, then your external characteristics are the first thing they see and care about. Black on Wall Street. Being black on Wall Street has meant being alone. Bloomberg writes in the piece, yada yada yada, eat my ass. There aren't a lot of Asians there. There aren't a lot of women there. Blah blah blah. If you're making the money Wall Street bros are making, I'm sure you'll survive not being able to slap the ass of someone who looks like you. Eat my ass. The author, Kelsey Butler. For several weeks this summer, I spoke with nearly a dozen black professionals about what it's like being the only one in the room. Hashtag talk about black. Why don't you ask them what it's like making multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars a year? Maybe they're the only ones in the room because to survive on Wall Street, they actually have to hire people based on talent instead of the color of their skin like you'd have. Because if some black female trans lost $100 million of someone else's money, the company is effed in the A. Charlene Johnson from Kaiser Permanente. This is a great article. I just spoke to a senior leader about this. As a leader, I noticed that oftentimes I am the only one in the room. Excellent read. My area is not Wall Street, but it's hospitals. Now I have been chosen for this moment to speak up and bring awareness. Maybe you wouldn't be the only one in the room if more blacks graduated high school. The system is currently set up where if a black person graduates high school, they don't need to be anything special, and the system will take them in and give them an unending amount of preference. Look at Obama bin Obama. C student in Harvard takes him in for a free ride, changes the law review editorial board guidelines to give him the position, and somehow he becomes president of the United States. I tell you what, Charlene. I hope your senior leader slapped you right in your black face and told you that race card is overdrawn, motherfucker. Now get back to effing work! Jeffrey J. Weaver, EVP of Key Court. Stories are both liberating for those who tell them and informative for those who blah 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 blah. I have often found myself the first or the only. My success viewed as a potential of a race. Yeah, guess what? Because of affirmative action, even if your success was 100% because of your merit, because of the system, it's much more likely that it was because people were tripping over themselves to hire and promote you so they could say, hey look! We've got a black guy and promoted him! John Burgess, a cuckly white chief talent and diversity officer. I once said something about a white glove treatment, and my manager asked me what was wrong with the black glove treatment. Liz Wamai is black, by the way. If my manager said something so stupid like that, I tell her to shut her black ass up and strut the F out of that company, because if you're that stupid, then there's no way Liz got her position of managing HR. Well, first off, I'd never be working in HR because they're mostly idiots in that department. But there's no way she got her position by merit. Annie Kwiat. This would be a good read and resource for the NDMBA Diversity and Inclusion Initiative. Imagine spending hundreds of thousands of dollars for an MBA in diversity and inclusion. Talk about flushing money down the drain. This is why I'm against any sort of bailout for college loans. If you're dumb enough to get a loan for this garbage, that's on you. Buyer beware. Ruchika Tolshian. Muslim, of course. I am delighted that Heels Up Harris is a VP pick. Blah, blah, blah. Thinks that she's overqualified for the job. Sean Porter, who calls himself a journalist, looks like a soy boy. Y'all are tripping if you don't think this is a continuation of Obama-era policies and nothing else, but maybe that's all we deserve. I love how white upper-middle-class leftists dumb down their speech, by the way, when talking to minorities. That is so incredibly racist. Ruchika. Okay, but for women of color to hear repeatedly from this current racist administration, honestly, none of us can afford to deal with more of the same. I bet this broad was screaming in her pillow when she heard Trump announce the deal between the UAE and Israel. Sean Porter. I just wish we could have gotten a pair in the race who actually want to represent and work for these BIPOC? I have no idea what BIPOC means. Seems like something this dickhead just made up. Cornelia Gibson. Hey man, thank you for bravely sharing your truth. And then a bunch of SJW nonsense. There's no such thing as your truth, Cornelia. There is the truth, and then there is your opinion. I can't believe these people exist in the world and propped up by the social media sites like LinkedIn. Madison Butler. She, her. She's a quote-unquote VP at a cocktail delivery website in Austin. I'd bet that her company is either failing because that's a god-awful idea or being propped up because the owner is black or something. If you don't know how to mix a good cocktail, then I'm revoking your man card. You either take a beer, liquor neat, or grab the shaker and do something good yourself. I lost the post she's referring to, but someone comes out and calls her a racist because I'd assume she posted something racist about white people and not understanding that, yes, blacks can be racist, and actually, according to Pew Research, are the most racist group in America. At least 12 times a day, random men twice my age accuse me of being unemployed, threatening to never hire me or how they make more than me. Despite my headline, despite my profile, despite my credentials, they assume I'm unemployed. This is all you need to know about how the world views black women. This is all you need to know about how the world views outspoken black women. This is how you need to know about how the world views carefree, unbothered black women. Sounds like a fucking cunt. Here's the issue with young black women and millennial women in general. They've got life so amazingly easy. I bet this idiot didn't need to pay or actually have an above average test score to get into her university. That most are too stupid to listen to life lessons from people older than them. I guarantee she got some BS affirmative Blackson scholarship and had it handed to her. But what's amazing is that she comes out screaming about racism. Someone calls her a racist and she goes right to LinkedIn because this place is virtue signaling hot trash. Look at this post by Bernard Grant. Men are the most fragile gender and you are showing off your male fragility. How representative of you. What a fag! This is what happens when you remove ass-kicking from public education. You get quote-unquote men who whinge like this. What timeline am I living in? God, Trump had better get elected again in 2020. I swear I'm going to start public speaking about these perpetually butthurt retards who are the result of free speech and classical liberalism. This was a tiny bit longer than I was planning to talk. I really hope people like this video because I could bitch about LinkedIn for days. Like, comment, and subscribe if you'd like, and if not, as any real classical liberal will tell you, you do you, my dude.
Trigger warning. I exist. I love Trump. Hey, I'ma vote Trump 2020, Trump 2020. I'ma vote Trump 2020.